No, the Democrats are mad at Comey for lots of reasons. I mean, they blame him for her loss. I saw Jim Comey last night, and I said, this guy swung an election? I don't think so. I mean, it definitely took away from that. He struggled to even answer basic questions. He also admitted that he, as FBI director, injected partisan politics and his belief that that person who lost the election, who should have won, Chris, that he believed that she would win, and he was operating under that premise. He also had people in his own household who wanted her to win. Right. And then he tells George Stephanopoulos...
But he wound up hurting her.
He didn't vote. But he
Badly.
didn't vote. No, he didn't. She hurt herself. She was never... Christopher, she was never at 50% in any of the polls in those swing states.
Certainly higher than Trump was, but that's not the point. Comey wound up disclosing the existence of it. I'm interrupting.
Don't just throw out these sound bites and to go viral without letting me finish a sentence.
You're the one who goes viral. What I'm saying is when Comey came forward and said that they were looking into the email investigation, it was undoubtedly damaging to Hillary Clinton.
Show me the swing states where she was over 50% on October 20th. Excuse me. Before Comey came out, show me the swing states. Show me in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa, North Carolina, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire. Show me the swing states where she was above 50%. Those states that President Obama carried twice in the case of North Carolina.
Well, she did not do as well as Obama did, clearly. But not being over 50% is a false measure. It's about whether or not it hurt her. And it certainly hurt her just in terms of media exposure alone. And if you think about it, Comey hurt Clinton and helped Trump because he refused to disclose the probe on him. So he was quiet about Trump and loud about Clinton.
Who's trying to relitigate the 2016 election now, Christopher? I'm not going to stand in the White House briefing room talking about the 2016 election. Here's what I'm going to talk about. That while this man is president, the FBI director took 2 months to go visit the president-elect at Trump Tower. If you're that concerned about alleged Russian interference, if you're that concerned about counterterrorism, you need to meet the new president. You can't, get on the shuttle or walk to New York?
What's the relevance?
It took him 2 months to... It's relevant because he's the sitting FBI director who wanted to keep his job. Go and brief the president-elect before that. Took him 2 months.
But he did brief him.
It took him...
And usually you come when called. 2 months. Come on. You come when called. And then it took a year. It took a year for him to say that he's clearing his conscience. If you have vital information in the national interest, then you come forward before your book and your media tour start. And you know that. This man... He had no political instincts whatsoever. He was wrong about the election, as were many people. But then last night he tells George Stephanopoulos, I didn't vote because the FBI director should be independent. You can't cast a private ballot in the mail or in a ballot box. That's so ridiculous. He didn't vote because he thought Hillary Clinton was going to win and didn't need his help. Yes, it does matter, because last night at the end he gave a free political commercial. Look, what he did to Hillary Clinton was by no one's measure helpful to her. Had he done the same thing to Donald Trump,
she was on her way to losing already.
Nuts.
She had no message. She had no message. Her running mate, Tim Kaine, would show up at a rally, and there'd be a handful of people. It looked like a second small wedding where I come from. There'd be like a couple hundred people.
But that's besides the point. She was
on her way to losing. She ignored Wisconsin and Michigan. She went to Georgia and Texas.
I think those are fair points, but they are beside the point of Comey's influence. Let me play something else for you that he said last night. I want your take on it. Go ahead.
Okay.
At least in my experience, he won't criticize Vladimir Putin, even in private. Even in a meeting with 3 people in the Oval Office, he is arguing that he gave a good answer when he said, essentially, we are the same kind of killers that Putin's thugs are. And that struck me.
So this is from a different interview with USA Today.
Talking about.
Jim Comey is making the point that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has a built-in resistance to saying anything negative about Vladimir Putin, even if that winds up meaning that he will put the United States on even footing with Russia when it comes to being killers.
I'm not even going to let you finish that. It's so ridiculous. I know you guys have these screaming graphics that cost you tons of money about Russian collusion, Russia.
Well, that's Comey saying.
And that's turned out to be nonsense. Excuse me, Comey is basing that on a meeting one small meeting he had last February. This man has been in the presence of the President of the United States less than 5 times, a handful of times. He's basing it. It sounds like he had 3 or 4 engagements with the president, 2 alone, very briefly, in the span of 6 weeks. And we have a book over about 15 months later that's supposed to be compelling about what this president thinks about Russia and Putin. You know what he thinks about Putin, and here's why. He expelled 60 Russian diplomats last month. On April 5th, we put sanctions on Russia that have hurt them financially more than almost anybody anticipated.
Took you a long time to put the sanctions into place, but you did.
No, it's taken you a long time to prove Russian collusion. I know that's very disappointing to your network. But let me tell you something, Christopher. And in addition, this weekend, this president did precise, decisive strikes, effective strikes against Syria, and that puts Russia and Iran on notice also. Russia tried to embarrass the United States, I think, which you and I both are citizens of, Christopher, tried to embarrass our country this weekend, and it blew up in his face. He only had Bolivia and China agree with them in this ridiculous vote. The U.S. had everybody else standing with them.
The criticism
and the UK
stands that the president rarely mentions Vladimir Putin by name and almost never in a negative way.
He's sanctioning
That's a fair point.
Their finances. It's not a fair point. It's a fact. You want facts first?
Yeah, the fact is that he talks about Putin in the negative by name.
I thought we're talking about Comey.
Very infrequently. That was what Jim Comey was echoing.
And can you talk negatively about Jim Comey? Like you did in tweets
I'm not
right
the president of the United
October?
States. Let's stick to who matters.
I'm just
asking
busy
questions.
Guy. We're not worried about Jim Comey. Honestly, there were parts last night where I was trying to grasp his essential relevance. He had limited interaction. I'm in the Oval Office more in a day than this guy was in his limited career.
Right, but he was
FBI
conducting an
director
investigation that gave him a lot of insight into a lot of different things. He didn't need to be face-to-face with the president. And frankly, when he was face-to-face with him, he often was put off by the president, and he was avoiding him because he was worried about the president trying to compromise him, again, like asking for loyalty, like asking to stay away from Flynn.
He would have invited somebody else. He loved the taste of power, and you know it.
How do you know?
Until he didn't have it anymore. Because there he was at dinner alone with the president.
He was asked by the president to go to dinner. What are you supposed to say, no?
No, but he could have said, who else will be there? Should I bring my wife? Should I bring my deputy, Andrew McCabe? That would have been fun. Should I bring Paige and Strosek? They like to spend time together. Should I bring Peter Orr and his wife? Should I bring all these people who are at the highest level of the FBI, were investigating Hillary Clinton and were for Hillary Clinton and against Donald Trump?
They were so for her that they announced an investigation against her twice. Once in the last 2 weeks of the campaign. Yeah, they were really trying to help her out.
And so what? And then he closed the investigation. She already was losing, and you know that. She couldn't.
Well, you can't have it both ways. Either that's what they were doing, and that's what mattered, or she was losing anyway. Also, look, you talk about doing the right thing.
This is not about her.
Should the president have asked him for loyalty? No. Should the president have told him to leave Flynn alone?
He did not ask him for personal loyalty. The president has denied that. The president said he never asked anyone to interfere in the investigation. No, and it doesn't mean it did happen because Comey says so.
Well,
and let me
Comey
say something.
Has contemporaneous notes also.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question as a reporter, as a good person, as a father of 3 children. Let me ask you if you're comfortable with the FBI director headed right directly into the gutter when it comes to what he was looking for in his first meeting with the president, what he wants to reflect in his book, the length of his tie, the size of his hands. You comfortable with that? Because I'm very uncomfortable with that.
I think it's tawdry stuff that the American people don't need to hear.
And I agree with Rod Rosenstein and what he said in May 9th last year, the Deputy Attorney General, when he said very clearly that Jim Comey, quote, has violated the obligation to preserve, protect, and defend the traditions of the Department of the FBI, agreed to by former attorneys general and deputy attorneys general, right, left, and center. And he recommended the removal of Jim Comey because he said he broke every FBI and DOJ protocol when it came to how to respond. Why didn't George Stephanopoulos ask the right question? Comey, why didn't you just say we declined to prosecute Hillary Clinton? You had to go out there. You had the pipe and
tortured language that made it really deceptive in terms of whether they should have prosecuted or not.
He should have done that. But he's very skilled at one thing. Jim Comey's very skilled at diverting the spotlight onto himself. And it's unfortunate that people think he's got a big story to tell. He had very limited interaction with the president. He admitted
but he was doing the investigation. It's not about his face-to-faces. It's about what he knew about the investigation. But hold on, you're raising a great point here. Rosenstein, very important to the president, handpicked, wrote this letter, fundamental in kind of building the case against Comey. Can you assure the American people that Rod Rosenstein and the special counsel are safe, that the president will not move on them until the work is completed?
So the president and his team have complied with everything that they've been asked to do with respect to this investigation. Hold on. It's over 20 individuals and thousands, tens of thousands of pages of documents, and you know it.
I don't know it, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, you do. Well, that's been said publicly. You should take our word for it. When I think of Rod Rosenstein, I think of several things. I work with him very closely on a couple of matters here. But I think that he was the man last May 9th who wrote this scathing indictment of Jim Comey and his performance. Rosenstein, he did. Everybody should read it because you guys covered it for a second. Your colleague rolled his eyes at me. No, it's an incredibly important document. Go put it up on CNN.com. You guys have a big digital platform. Do America a favor and remind them that the Deputy Attorney General, that you want to stay in his job. He's a man of great integrity and everything, as you're saying, and I've worked with him on a couple issues. Go and see the letter he wrote.
Yeah, okay.